An innovative approach to criminal investigations first came to the forefront around 2018. Since then, Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy, or FIGG, has been instrumental in cracking hundreds of cold cases and ongoing investigations. Court documents show it was used to connect Brian Kohberger to the University of Idaho murders in 2022. Prosecutors say law enforcement used FIGG to link Kohberger to the DNA found on a knife sheath that was left at the home where the 4 students were killed. Law enforcement in Idaho say it's a key piece of the puzzle in bringing closure to victims and families living with unsolved cases. So how does FIGG work? Well, Morgan Romero explains.
Police say 65-year-old Boise business owner Joyce Casper was abducted, sexually assaulted, and killed.
She had a Hallmark store on Vista, and she worked really long hours. When she was then abducted, it was after she had walked out of the door and locked the door.
Her body was found inside her car near the Vista Village Shopping Center.
The attack, the abduction happened, put her in her car and drove her back down to the area where she was discovered.
You know, I was definitely stunned.
You just kind of go blank and you have a ton of questions all at the same time.
We solved it. This case is now closed. We never forgot. We never gave up.
And who ultimately was the suspect?
Frank Rodriguez.
What was his connection? Was there any connection to her?
None whatsoever.
You go 35 years and you just assume that you will never know. And it's this thing that you carry inside of you.
How did they tell you they solved it?
Oh, they said right away that they had solved it using the genealogy.
Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy, or FIGG, cracked this case. Using the suspect's DNA preserved from the crime scene decades ago, a lab created a genetic profile, and then it was uploaded into a genetic genealogy database.
It's one of those cases that I will take with me forever. We had a profile of a second cousin once removed, someone that's clear across on the other side of the family tree, and we didn't have anything in between.
BPD hired a forensic genealogist to build a family tree using public records. Investigators tracked down and contacted family members, ultimately finding the suspect's 2 sons.
They consented and then both matched. And that was through a private company, and then we used ISP to basically confirm through a law enforcement.
In here is where we do all of our DNA analysis. My title is Laboratory System Director for Idaho State Police Forensic Services.
Law enforcement first has to run DNA through the FBI's national database. If there's not a match, they can resort to FIGG, DNA analysis combined with genealogy research to generate investigative leads.
We use that term to cover 2 topics. One is investigative genetic genealogy, and the other one is FGG, forensic genetic genealogy.
Gamut says FGG covers DNA sequencing done in labs, mostly private labs right now, to build genetic profiles. On the investigative side, those DNA profiles are uploaded into certain publicly available databases or genealogy services and compared with people who submitted their profiles and gave permission for law enforcement to use them.
So it could be anything from taking the genetic information and putting it into a database and then building out genealogical trees, family trees, to be able to work with that information.
Has this technology changed the game for investigations?
It really has.
How many cold cases would you say you've been able to solve or help solve using FGG or IGG?
So in Idaho right now, what I can credit to specifically to this team is 4 that we can announce. However, there are other cases that are active right now that are either we believe we have the suspect, or there are cases that are currently in grand jury. But there are lots of cases in Idaho that are very active with this technology and this technique.
We're hopeful. We're really hopeful for the family.
Detective Jay Gosh is working on one other decades-old cold case that he hopes to solve using investigative genetic genealogy. Jason Cannon was almost 3 years old when he went missing from the front porch of his family's West End apartment in March of 1983.
This is the canal that's by his house. They searched it, researched it. I mean, they covered this. Once they ruled this out of like, oh man, this might be an abduction.
If he is alive, what's the possibility of using investigative genetic genealogy to help solve that case?
The possibility is high. And at this point in the case, other than a few other leads that we're trying to run down, it's basically a waiting game of either him or if he has children, either doing some type of a family tree, some kind of genetic testing. When the mom asked me, are you gonna find my boy? Just, broke my heart. And I'm like, okay, I gotta keep working. And that's when I put his picture on my desk, like, so I don't forget.
Did knowing who it was and knowing that BPD had solved the case, did it bring you any semblance of closure?
Not at first, but over time I think it has, because I feel less unsettled about it now.
Yeah, seeing his picture made a difference for me, because I didn't have to carry around some monstrous picture in my mind anymore. It's like, oh, that's what he looks like. That's the one who did it.
Are you hopeful that more cases will be solved using this technology?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There are so many people who are living with an unsolved case in their lives. And I want to be able to give hope to people to know that the more updated the technology and the genealogy investigations that they're doing now is amazing. So don't ever give up.
And the man who killed Joyce Casper ended up taking his own life several years later. Boise police says detectives have opened other cold cases with DNA evidence, and Detective Jay Gosh believes IGG is being used on some of those. However, BPD can't give us any more information because they're active, open cases. Jay Gosh and Gamut noted DNA isn't found in every crime, so not every cold case can lean on this technology. When FIGG first came to the forefront, Gamut says it was the Wild West. The technology was robust, but policies and procedures did not exist. In the last few years, he says ISB helped lead the country in coming up with policies around using and securing databases and addressing ethical and privacy concerns. We'll be right back.